Hello, my name is Davide Ponzini. I'm a professor of urban planning at Politecnico di Milano and the director of the Transnational Architecture and Urbanism Lab, TAU Lab in short. Today, I will discuss the transnational circulation of urban project narratives. I will use the High Line elevated park in New York City to exemplify this phenomenon. Indeed, following the global exposure when New York converted a decrepit infrastructure into an elevated park, numerous cities worldwide have used the High Line brand to promote similar projects. I will argue that successful urban plans and projects like the High Line get narrated in partial but purposive ways by multiple urban actors. These narrations are mobilized and arrive in different situations in order to promote projects that may be somewhat similar, but where the local process of adaptation ends up generating effects that can be far different from the original setting. For this reason, we need a more complex and critical understanding of this kind of transnational urbanism. The High Line elevated park is typically narrated as a success story, the conversion of an abandoned elevated railway infrastructure into a linear urban park has become a beacon for adaptive reuse, ecological urbanism, and much more. In this case, long abandoned railway tracks came to be perceived as a barrier in the city of New York. In 1999, the non-profit advocacy group Friends of the High Line supported the idea and project of converting this abandoned infrastructure into a park rather than demolishing it. This non-profit organization promoted the involvement of different actors and the local community to gather both economic resources and political consensus. Through strong cooperation with Mayor Bloomberg's city administration, the advocacy group issued a call for ideas and projects in 2002. James Corner Field Operation and Diller Scofidio and Renfro won the competition thanks to an innovative yet non-intrusive project that preserved and valorized the infrastructure. This design by Diller Scofidio Renfro and James Corner Field Operation, as one of the most visible parts of the process, gained fast and wide international recognition. The repurposing of the infrastructure was hailed not only for creating a new park that retained a certain sense of place, but also for bringing nature back into the city. The project was initially supported with $50 million by the City of New York. Substantial additional private funding has been raised throughout the years. The city government found a great regeneration opportunity that not only provided green infrastructure to citizens and a new attraction for tourists, but also had significant impacts on the real estate values surrounding the park, thereby generating property tax revenue and stimulating more investments. The first phase was completed in 2009, Phase 2 in 2011, Phase 3 opened in 2014, with the project extending further into the ongoing Hudson Yards development. Many international designers contributed to the regeneration of the area. For example, as you see in this picture, the new Standard Hotel designed by Paul Scheck now stands astride and above the elevated park. At the south end of the park, the Whitney Museum opened its new seat designed by Renzo Piano, not far from the Interactive Corp headquarters designed by Frank Gehry. Other buildings by Shigeru Ban, Atelier Jean Nouvel, Robert Stern and Zaha Hadid Architects have been completed. The park has been very popular. According to estimates, the High Line had more than 2 million visitors in the first year and over 4 million since 2012. However, such branded projects and the success of the park reinforced ongoing gentrification trends. The northern end of the elevated park has also contributed to the massive construction of project promoted by the real estate developers of Hudson Yards. It's clear that the generation of high-quality public space and public amenities distributed benefits to multiple social parties and contributed to northbound real estate appreciation wave. Subsequent increase in tax revenue, the creation of a new magnet for tourists, leisure and consumerism are critical aspects to be stressed while considering the gradual expulsion of lower strata of population and shop owners. In addition, it is worth mentioning that even one of the founders of the Friends of the High Line organization, Robert Hammond, while recently discussing the transformation of the area local community matters in a new interview, stated that, quote, "Ultimately, we failed." This map shows the location of the projects whose proponents and supporters explicitly claim to be inspired by the High Line. In this map, only the completed projects are described, whereas the concepts and the projects under construction are simply located. The circulation of similar plans and projects outlines a precise world geography, mostly touching at Western and capitalist countries. Cities with old infrastructures, and perhaps with limited budgets for demolishing them and building others, started reuse plans, as opposed to the cities of poorer or emerging countries in Asia or Africa, where there is limited concern and funding for urban heritage preservation, or where there is greater push for modernization and urban renewal. There is, of course, a wide variety of project types and situations among the ones mapped. In addition, this map shows that the High Line project itself had an inspiring antecedent: the Promenade Plantée, designed by Vergely and Mathieu to convert an abandoned railway branch in the Bastille area of Paris. The Paris project was completed in 1993 and aimed at generating and connecting 4 relatively small parks. The nearby arcades of the former viaduct now host retail and workshop spaces. The Promenade Plantée did not have a comparable effect on its surrounding, as witnessed later with the High Line in New York. Without a doubt, the New York project became a trendsetter, with several others following in a vast international surge. For example, the case of the West Toronto rail path is quite similar to the High Line of New York. It is an urban rail-to-trail project that covers several kilometers. It was completed in stages since the end of the 2000s. Another similar case can be found in Seoul. In the mid-2010s, the Seoul 7017 project converted a 1 kilometer long segment of a former highway into an elevated park. This project was designed by the Dutch firm MVRDV and is located near the central station, attracting masses of users and visitors like its antecedent in New York. However, project having substantially different features also circulated the idea and image of the High Line. For example, the City Park Transbay Transit Center in San Francisco is just 425 meters long. It has a special arrangement that makes it more of a destination near a mobility node rather than an infrastructure connecting multiple points, as the High Line does in Manhattan. Other projects claim inspiration and similarities to, or label themselves as a High Line, even when there was no elevated infrastructure to be converted in the first place. For example, the train track park in Jerusalem is a 7-kilometer long park that, in the early 2010s, converted a former train track located at ground level and developed a set of green areas and public services along this new urban spine. The urban effect is very different from the one in New York City. Let's go back to New York City. Through this set of examples, one can see the strategy of simplifying complex planning stories and solutions. The narrative of the High Line Elevated Park has come to legitimize other projects elsewhere, despite the fact that its design and transformation process is much more complex than typically narrated. The actual success of one project as the highline may in fact be contingent and related to local features that cannot be translated or transferred elsewhere. In most cases, practitioners and developers are aware of the limits of the proposed model and the differences with the local follow-up project, but, nonetheless, knowingly refer to an antecedent best practice to reap practical and discursive benefits. Local actors are not capable of or willing to critically distance themselves from the narratives they use. The circulating story purposely concentrates on specific details and on design, but leaves out the importance of local economic conditions, different actors' motivations, the political interactions among them, key urban policy decisions made, the long-term effects of projects on their surroundings, and much more. Narrations are indeed devices for simplifying and decontextualizing complex urban processes. This allows for similar projects to be more easily promoted internationally by designers, developers, politicians, cultural institutions, or non-profit organizations. But what may be a discursive advantage for an actor early on might easily become a collective threat in the long term. For this reason, the Transnational Architecture and Urbanism Lab of Politecnico di Milano promotes critical research on circulating plans and projects. It is important to show the mobilities, circulations, and transfers of narratives, urban models, and design solutions. We can critically learn from complex past experiences and use that knowledge to prevent cities from repeating mistakes or help them see how to put better urban projects in place.